The year is 2011. If you're anything like me, you hated school and you just wanted to go home and play Call of Duty. And when you were at school, you just talked about Call of Duty with your friends, different rifles, attachments, kill streaks, campaign, this and that. I was one of those bad students that's just like, dude, I just want to get home, play, jump on the game with my boys. That's followed me into adulthood. It's called procrastination and not getting stuff done, but it's okay because we're getting this YouTube video done here today. And what is this YouTube video about? Well, this is going to be the top 5 most iconic video game AR variants. Maybe we'll do a video in the future of just general guns, you know, most iconic guns from games, but this is going to be specific to the AR-15, M4, M16 variants, kind of thing along those lines. You know, you may have a clone of one of these sitting in your safe at home. You may have your real guns that you use, you know, your SHTF rifles, but you see these rifles and you go, you know, I gotta have it. I gotta have a clone of it because I love playing this game when I was young. These games, I think, influence a lot of us. Taste in firearms that we have, the choices that we make sometimes with our purchases. It's something that I look at when I go to buy a gun. I'm like, oh, I remember this from this piece of media. Let's jump right into it. So number 5 is going to be the GTA 5 carbine rifle. Now, this is kind of an unorthodox game to mention because you don't see a lot of love for the GTA franchise among gun guys. Maybe some of our adjacent cultures within the gun community, maybe they like GTA a little bit more. But, you know, when it comes to like some of the more tactical heads, you know, GTA is really not the most tactical game. When I play it like it's Arma. So I will, you know, jump into fighters, tanks. You know, I'm coordinating with my boys and my wife because she plays too. We're coordinating, we're closing in on Merryweather. We're bringing the rain. We're calling for fire in the hood. You know, that's what we do. I got the A10, I got like the F35 now. They've added so much stuff to GTA 5. This is a multi-generational game. There are kids out there right now that have probably played GTA that were not alive when it came out. But GTA 5's AR-15, they call it the Carbine Assault Rifle. Carbine, depending on who you ask. And it's kind of a unique, odd looking gun. There's not a lot of other rifles in games that look like this. So parts list for it are as follows. It's got a 10.5-inch barrel, and I think it's got an adjustable gas block in there. And then the handguard that they're using could be a couple different things. At first, when I looked at it, I said, that kind of looks like a Mark 12 style, but I don't believe that the upper is monolithic. Instead, what I think it is a Daniel Defense modular float rail with a Vlator upper attached to it. Again, not monolithic up top, so I don't think it's a Mark 12, but it does look like that Daniel Defense MFR. Kind of a unique looking rail, and it's pretty cool. This was, I think, came out in the early 2010s or 2012, so right when GTA was coming out. So I guess this was state of the art for the time, but it actually looks pretty cool. You know, it is a free float rail, so this might be one of the earlier instances of a video game showing free float rails like this. Somebody can fact check me on that. But as far as the rest of the build goes, an Ace skeleton stock in the rear, which is not adjustable in real life, but looks to be adjustable in the game. A North Tech billet lower receiver, so it's got that ugly kind of lines that billet lowers have. Ergo flat top pistol grip and Troy-like flip up sights. And then as far as the attachments on the rifle actually go, you can throw things like an L-can on it, Surefire light, a Knights Armament NT4 suppressor, even some extended magazines as well. One's like a belt-fed looking magazine. It's kind of strange, but that's in there as well. And then I think like Surefire 60s. All in all, pretty unique gun. I've considered cloning this. You know, maybe I will whenever the next GTA comes out. That might make a cool video. Maybe if the channel continues into the next year, whenever GTA 6 comes out, maybe we'll start a clan and we'll have like a dedicated air wing. We'll have a dedicated armor unit. We'll have like infantry guys. And we'll just like go through lobbies, have guys, air superiority, armored vehicles. That's what I really want from GTA 6. I don't care about the single player. You know, a lot of guys are excited about playing as a thick Latina. I care about having that thick piece of armor on the front of my M1 Abrams. I hope they bring an M1 Abrams. I can roll down Miami. I'm out there on the 50 cal just Number 4, the Fallout New Vegas. I think this is the NCR service rifle. This is not a gun. I should say this is not a game that I've played, okay? So I don't want to be a poser and tell you like, oh, I really love Fallout New Vegas. That's the best one in the franchise. I think there's a lot of posers out there that kind of say this stuff. Oh, dude, Black Ops 3 was the best Call of Duty. It's like, brother, you never even played it. So I want to be upfront. I want to give you that disclaimer that I have not played Fallout New Vegas. As I understand it, this is either one of those games like you either love it or you hate it. I think it was made by a different publisher or something. There's something weird going on there. But this has a very like cultist following. And I've seen the NCR service rifle cloned many, many times on like online. You know, there's been guys on YouTube that do videos on it. Retro AR guys will throw it up all the time. You'll see it pop up on forums and like maybe even on Reddit. When you Google like NCR service rifle IRL, you'll probably see a bunch of clones of it. And what the actual rifle itself is a C7 rifle with wood furniture and like a weird little muzzle device. There's also a sub variant in the game that's like a 50 cal or something like that, but it's like DLC, it doesn't really count. Most people are cloning the base game rifle. Now this is not the only AR in the game. There's also like a 733 and then like an M4 gun. This is the one I see the most though, and it's the most unique because it looks pretty cool. You know, you always see this rifle and then you'll see guys post, oh, it makes you wish for a nuclear winter or whatever. But this gun's very iconic. It's probably the reason that so many different retro bros like grew up and they're like, dude, I just love a carry handle. Probably this game probably had something to do with it. Pretty easy to clone, you know, the wood furniture and a weird muzzle device, and then just like a base C7 rifle you can pick up from any number of places now. Now, as far as the history of wooden furniture on ARs goes, there's not a whole lot there. I tried to look to see if there's any instances of like M16s equipped with it, but the M16 was designed with that plastic and aluminum style of system in mind that Eugene was experimenting with, because, you know, that was the field that Eugene was well versed in, so he was bringing that over to his firearms. So I don't think that there was ever an intention to introduce wood onto these guns, and it's much more of a more recent development. Now with that being said, the original AR-10, I thought it was wood initially, but it's actually more like a fiberglass style of material. So again, some kind of weird plastic. Some guys think it's Bakelite. It kind of looks like American Bakelite. That's kind of how I think of it, but it's not wood. Now in more recent history, even Ian of Forgotten Weapons has a video on this. The Portuguese, I want to say, have some wood on their AR-10s. They've made furniture for, and then some Southeast Asians have some wood on their M16s that they've had forever. So the in-game reason for it, as far as I understand in New Vegas, is because there's not a lot of plastic being made anymore. You know, oil's kind of hard to get, so they're using wood to like dress up their guns. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, before we continue, we have to thank the sponsor for this video, which is Hammy 3D Prints. He's a great guy. If you met him, you've never met him, but I've met him, and he's been on the channel. You've seen him before is what I mean to say. He makes things like kill flashes, light covers, lens covers, things for walls. You see this wall behind me? Yeah, this is definitely my wall. It's real. And this is all Hammy stuff on here. You can mount, look at this blaster you can mount this right here. You could even do something like this, hang your plate carrier even. Now that's pretty cool, right? You definitely want some Hammy stuff, so go check him out. Link will be in the description below. You can go snag some goodies for yourself. You can hang it up on the wall. You can do whatever it is you do with your guns, but he's got definitely a ton of accessories to assist you, and he's got those mag wells as well, which I've really been loving. So go give Hammy some love, and let's get back to the video. So number 3 is going to be a game that is very popular worldwide. I think some of you might be able to guess what this is. I mean, it regularly has like 500,000 players every single day. There's a huge market for it with there's tons of money into these skins, and it's very competitive as well, and that's going to be Counter-Strike. It has had several different facelifts over the years, but it kind of remains the same in a weird way. It's like they just keep updating the same game over and over, which is something I wish Call of Duty would do. I know people say like it's the same game every year, but imagine if we just had COD 4 and it was just COD 4 this entire time, and they just kept giving it a facelift and like upgrades every so often. Call of Duty would probably be in a much better place, but we'll talk about Call of Duty here in a little bit. As far as Counter-Strike goes, I think we're currently on Counter-Strike 2. I used to play a little bit of CSGO when I first got my computer because I kind of thought of that game as like the PC game to like try and learn on. It's kind of strange, you know, it's that old Valve style of not aiming down the sights or whatever, but you would be a fool to not recognize the cultural impact that this has had on gun guys, gun community, and just culture in general, right? This was probably a huge inspiration for the developers of Call of Duty when they made their game. I'm sure that they pulled some stuff, search and destroy and whatnot, probably pulled some ideas from Counter-Strike, so it has had a huge impact on gaming and guns in general. There's so many different pistols and, you know, rifles that people will think of Counter-Strike whenever they see in real life. The one that I'm specifically mentioning here is the M4A1S, which is actually a Colt Model 723 with a strange little flash hider and a suppressor that you thread on. Nothing really unique as far as the actual gun goes, but this was the one when I first loaded up Counter-Strike, I was like, this is gonna be the gun I use right here. This thing's sick. There's a variety of different weapons that we could talk about. I've just chosen the M4A1S from that game. I think I was looking at some reload animations, and one of the early variants of Counter-Strike has him reloading by pulling the forward assist, pulling that out like it's a charging handle and then pushing it back in. Back in the day, the reload animations really weren't that good. Even today, the reload animations are strange to me because there's only like one reload animation. You know, it feels very dated, and that's why it's so interesting to me that the game has survived this long. Like, it's a product of its time. It is frozen in time with graphical upgrades and performance upgrades given to it every so often. That's kind of cool. I wish more games would just stick with one thing and then just keep pushing it through time. That's Counter-Strike. There's not a whole lot to say here just because I have not sunk my teeth that deep into it, but I do recognize the cultural impact that that game has had on gaming and guns. Now, picking a #1 spot was challenging and traumatizing for me, okay? But you've seen this gun on the channel before. You've seen it on Administrative Results' channel. This is a rifle that needs no introduction, really. So let's just jump right into it. It is the M16A3 from Battlefield 3. Now, here we've got my clone of it that, again, I've made a few videos on it, and we're probably going to make another one with the release of Battlefield 6 here soon. We will showcase this in some capacity at least, but this is my clone of the M16A3, and it's honestly one of the most controversial guns, I would say, as far as the comment section goes on my videos. So often I will call this my M16A3. I will say, hey, this is my clone of the Battlefield 3 M16, and guys will come at me and they'll say, hey, that's not an A3. The A3 is a fixed A2. It's a full auto A2 is what it is. There's two schools of thoughts on this. So I've spoken to Small Arms Solutions on one hand, and I have talked to Navy veterans on the other hand. And what guys like Small Arms Solutions say is that the M16A3 never existed in any configuration but the fixed carry handle, full auto A2 style variant. And that was the NSN number. That is what Colt and FN had issued, or I think it was an FN gun. You know, that's what FN had issued. That's the A3. There is no other gun in any other configuration that has that nomenclature associated with it. But then there's guys that are in the Navy, veterans, that say, hey, yeah, we have lowers that say M16A3. We've thrown A4 uppers on it. So to make this flat top full auto M16, we've thrown kit bashing, a whole bunch of different stuff together. Stuff like M4s with M16A1 lowers or A3 lowers. So, you know, the way I think of it is I much more agree with those Navy veterans, those guys in the field for a clone, because it's like, you know, how much stuff in the GWAT was procured by individual soldiers that was out of their own pocket. You know, they paid for their own free float tube or their own optic, and that doesn't have an NSN associated with it because it was never official, but it's still clone correct for something you're trying to do. And I think of the A3 in the same way. CBs and whatnot have seen various, whether it's in the A2 configuration or in the A4, you know, they've existed out there. Now, as far as it pertains to Battlefield 3, this gun was the main weapon basically of the Marine Corps in the campaign, and it was the starting weapon for the assault class for the US side in the multiplayer, and it was a powerhouse of a gun. You know, fast reload, fast fire rate, good accuracy. It is the assault rifle that I compare all assault rifles to when I'm playing a Battlefield. So if it's Battlefield 1, I kind of think of the Hellrigel. I'm like, oh, this is the A3 of Battlefield 1. Battlefield 5, stuff like the STG or the People's Rifle, the Volkssturm, whatever, that gun. It's like, oh, this is like the A3 of this game, or 2042, before there's actually the A3 now in Portal. But the M5A3 for a while, I was like, oh, this is like the M16A3 of 2042. And, you know, with Battlefield 6 coming out, I'm kind of thinking of the M4 as the A3 for Battlefield 6, if that makes any sense. Very iconic, you know, so many nights playing with my friend Andrew. We'd play all night, Operation Metro. I remember Armored Kill when that came out. We grinded the assignments. We just played it all night, multiple times in a row. You know, my mom would wake me up, or I would wake her up, and she would come and be like, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? It's like, oh, I'm playing with Andrew. She's like, wrap it up. And then we would just stay up until sunrise. So that was a good time. The first time I actually ever stayed up all night was playing Battlefield 3 to sunset to sunrise, you know what I mean? I have a lot of good memories from Battlefield. I hope the franchise is going to be back. You know, a lot of guys are saying we're back. I hope so. I enjoyed the beta. It was a good time. I just hope that they stay grounded and true to themselves, and I think that we're going to be in for a treat. So that's the A3. Very beautiful gun. I got some footage you guys have probably seen. And I have yet to throw an FRT in this thing, but I feel as if that is the natural order of things. And maybe we'll do that for the final video. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. So that's the A3. Now, let's go to #1. Well, actually, before we go to #1, we got to do some honorable mentions. Some of you are probably saying, well, what about the Metal Gear Solid M4, right? Well, here's the thing. I didn't play Metal Gear, all right? Again, probably guys are going to be disliking, unsubscribing right as we speak, but I wanted to mention some of these as well. So we will mention the Metal Gear Solid 4 M4. I guess it's pretty iconic. I see people ask me about this a lot, like, hey, you should clone this. It kind of is, I think it's like a two-tone style of rifle. I haven't even looked at pictures of it. I'm just mentioning it because I know people like it a lot. There's probably some other variants in these Metal Gear games that I'm just not aware of. Metal Gear has definitely impacted the gun community in an autistic way. Somebody had described the Metal Gear Solid franchise to me like it was autistic gaming before autistic gaming was a thing. So I don't know what that means. I probably should go back and play some of these games, but we will throw the MGS4 M4 up here because I guess it's pretty iconic. Next, here's one that I've actually cloned from the Call of Duty franchise. The Black Ops 1 Commando. It is not the most iconic AR in that franchise, but it is a very cool one. It's one that sticks out in my memory a lot. I have very fond memories of it. Whenever I see a Troy rear sight, I automatically think of Black Ops, or whenever you see a sling wrapped around a gun, it makes you think back to the Commando. Black Ops was a phenomenal game, really. The psychological thriller was genius for the time. The twists, the memories, and psychological warfare in that game was awesome. I thought that was one of the best entries in the franchise, and the Commando was one of the best guns in multiplayer. It was one of the later ARs that you unlocked. You had the M16 early on, which was phenomenal, and then you had the Commando. And the Commando, with a suppressor and a red dot sight, you could just rock people's world all day. It was a great gun. Almost every gun in that game was awesome. Very iconic, and Commando deserves a spot on the list, at least as an honorable mention, so that's why it's in there. Next, for an honorable mention, Black Hawk Down AR-15. This might not be very iconic to a lot of people, but it is kind of iconic to me. That's why it's not on the real list, but on the honorable mentions. I'm not talking about the newer Chinese spyware game that came out. I'm talking about the OG Black Hawk Down. I absolutely love this game. I remember playing it with my family. We used to play games together. That was like a huge thing that we did. Whether it was like the Medal of Honor franchise, we'd all sit down, we'd play like the campaign together. That's really like where I got my first person shooter start, was like gaming with my family. And I think that that's pretty cool. But this was actually the first instance of me seeing like a AR-15 in a video game, maybe even in a piece of media. I'm not sure if this or the Black Hawk Down movie came first for me, but they are one of the games who have implemented like a pretty realistic, interesting viewpoint when you're looking through a red dot. At the time, I didn't really know what it was, but I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. It's got like this weird scope. I didn't even know red dots were a thing, but this was one of the earliest games I played that actually had, you know, like those aim point pros and stuff mounted on a carry handle. The game actually features model 723s, correction, 727s, just like the movie, because that's kind of what it's based off of, you know, more so the movie, I guess, than the event. Kind of cool. Cool game nonetheless, and I wish that they actually remastered like a good version of it and not like whatever we got. Okay, now, moment you've waited for. The one iconic AR in gaming history, in my opinion, right? The peak, all right? You've seen it cloned. You probably already know what it is. Go ahead and comment down right now what you think it is. You'll probably be right. It is the Scar from Fortnite, ladies and gentlemen. The Scar from Fortnite. I'm just kidding. It's the Modern Warfare 2 M4A1. This is a rifle that I want to get on the channel. Hopefully I can get it in the near future for you. I think it would be very cool. There are so many different iconic, cool guns from the Modern Warfare 2 Call of Duty franchise in general, right? There's so many to pick from, but I think out of all of those M4 variants, the one that sticks out the most to me that anybody will recognize is the gun from this game. You know, it starts off in that first mission so iconic with the aim down your sights, right? You gotta aim down your sights, aiming down your sights, but aim down your sights, aiming down your sights. You know, that first mission, you're in Afghanistan, you got that M4, you're going out with your boys in Humvees, you're getting shot at, civilians running by, there's terrorists mixed in with them, you know, you get your Humvee RPG'd, you're rolling through the streets of Kabul or wherever you are, rolling through the classroom, rolling through history class, and you got your M4 and you're bagging terrorists. You know, really iconic gun, from a really iconic game. If you're talking to somebody over the age of 25, there's like a high chance that half of their personality is playing Modern Warfare 2, you know, back in 2009, 2010, because it just had such an impact on us. This was the game that took Call of Duty from being a good franchise to being like a cultural superpower. You know, this was the World War II. What World War II and the post-World War II world did to America, Modern Warfare 2 did to the Call of Duty franchise. I would say from like 2007 to 2013, those were the peak Call of Duty games. And it also coincided with the peak of gaming that we talked about early on in this video, where you had this moment in history where, you know, you had a whole generation that was learning how to use the internet, and we were learning online gaming. We were having all this fun, you know, before things got super gay really is what it is. And there's just so many fond memories from this game. The campaign, the story, the music, everything, this aura that it has is phenomenal, and it's something that Call of Duty really has lost. And I wish that they get it back someday. You know, I think that Black Ops 7 will be a wash. Maybe Modern Warfare 30 or whatever this is will be grounded again, but you know, I really doubt it. I think Call of Duty's best days are behind it now because of a lot of that corporate greed. So, you know, I clone these guns and whatnot as a way to kind of pay respects to that time, because, you know, someday the servers will be logged offline. Battlefield 3 is already gone offline on the Xbox 360. You know, all my stuff has been lost basically, and if you played on the consoles, you know, all your stuff's gone too, all your rank. You can't even go look it up because they took Battlelog offline for those games. But, you know, I can pass these guns down to my kids and I can say, this is from Modern Warfare 2. I'm building my own personal, you know, Infinity Ward museum, I guess, in my own gun safe. As far as actual M4 in that game goes, it's a 14.5-inch barrel with an ARMS SIR rail. ARMS still exists, but the guy refuses to make these old rails. I wish that somebody would tell him, you know, the owner of ARMS, like, dude, there's a whole generation of kids that loved playing these games, that have grown up, they have money, and they want to clone some of these guns from these games they played, and your stuff would sell. It would sell like crazy, but he's just not really interested in bringing out some of those old things. So you got to go find these rails, and they're very expensive as I understand it. I've seen a couple of these like complete builds pop up for like $2,000. You'll see it called like the Burger Town build, even though the scars, which they're using in Burger Town, but whatever. You know, that rail is really makes it iconic, and the two-tone black and tan. You know, outside of that, it's a pretty normal looking AR-15, but it's really that ARMS, I don't think it's free float. You know, it's that ARMS rail with the monolithic upper that really just kind of sells that look and makes it really iconic. And it's kind of a necessary thing if you want to clone this rifle. Anything less would be more of like a, you know, ghost in the background of the multiplayer menu has like two-tone M4, but it's not the same one from the campaign. I've seen some guys clone that as well, which is pretty cool, but if you really want to get that Modern Warfare 2 M4, you need that rail, and it just sucks because it's so expensive now. But that's been the list, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know if you agreed with it, if you disagreed. I think it's been a fun video, so I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.